Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is Eric Crouch. 15, 10.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner, where there's no place like this podcast. As always, we're your host, Blake, my brother, Brooks. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, leave us a comment, and you can follow us on X at @chusker_corner.
So I was walking through, downtown Lincoln on the day of the Colorado game, and I was wearing this hat. And so everybody's, it was a night game. It was everybody was excited to be there. And there's this one guy, obviously kind of tipsy, walks past me, and he points at my hat, and he goes, "See, that guy's in a baseball hat." And I looked back at him and I said, "Well, it's definitely not a football hat." And I was just thinking the whole way back is like, yeah, like in baseball, everybody wears caps and we wear caps with them. But in football, everybody wears helmets and we still wear caps. So think about it. If everybody wore football helmets to the games, that would be an interesting sight. But anyway, yeah, it's good to be here. This is my first time doing stand-up.
Wow, I do not like that.
He's doing you're doing your best Tony Hinchcliffe impression.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a game week. It's game week once again.
Yeah.
It was the bye week last week, but this week it's game week, and it's not only game week, but it's a huge game this week. We are going to Bloomington, Indiana to play a ranked Indiana team. I believe in the AP they're ranked 16th. Isn't that correct? Yeah, which we're not even ranked in the AP, which is crazy. We're ranked 25th in the coaches poll. So unfortunately, when you turn this game on the network televisions, it'll have a number displayed by their name and no number displayed by our name, because those things go based off of the AP.
Super excited for the opportunity to play a ranked team again. We have to get this particular monkey up our back. Going into the season, there were two things that we really need to do for the continued trajectory of Husker football that I thought, and one of them was beating a ranked team, and the other one was getting to a bowl. And we can do both of them in one game. Not going to be an easy task. Indiana has looked really good against not as good competition, I will say, but still they've gone out and they have executed, which is really what good teams do, right? They haven't lost by more than I think 21 was the closest game at this point. Yeah. So Kirk Cinetti, Mr. Google him, definitely has done a great job already with their program. Anybody that's been following him for a little while knew he was going to. But it's been pretty stark, at least so far, as to how fast he was able to do it. Pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah.
But I will say not as impressive as it would be made out to. Like, looking from the outside looking in, I know when you're in a fandom, it's kind of hard to see some of the things that are happening. But Tom Allen did not have terrible teams when he was the coach there, like at all. I mean, in the terms of like how Nebraska football's been the past 10 years, we have only fielded probably one or two teams that were technically losing teams, from the product on the field to the talent on the field, whatever. Most of the time it's been like non-execution. Players are there. Coaching isn't quite there. Stuff like that. That has been Indiana's problems. But they're always playing people close. There were always somebody on our schedule, and I'm sure on everybody's schedule, that they had them can't look past them. Can't look past them. They've always been that way. I think 2-3 years ago, Allen had them as a top 15 team, I believe, at that point. But yeah, they've always been a really hard program, and
Bower. that's when I'm pretty sure they were top 15. Whatever. Michael Penix Jr. was their starting quarterback, and Kalen DeBoer was their offensive coordinator. So think about that for a second.
So think about that.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they were as forlorn as people were giving them credit, like not giving them credit for, basically. And again, he did a good job with the transfer portal, kind of restocking the team, and then coaching on top of that, just has the players playing for him, buying in. But that being said, it's not as miraculous as people are making out to be. You just need good coaching and a little bit more talent in there.
Yeah, no, yeah. I just really wish you'd stop mansplaining over there.
You were waiting that whole time.
6 minutes, 30 seconds. Let's see. That's the first time you kicked it over to me. 6 minutes, 30 seconds. And you didn't even have any fun anecdotes that you threw in there to make us feel all warm and fuzzy about the Nebraska fan base. Anyway.
They're merely talking about the in Indiana.
No, I followed you though.
Do you agree? Though?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Indiana has not been bad. They've not been bad. And one of the things, I think honestly, their start this year is just as much a testament to Tom Allen as it is to Curt Cignetti right now. Like Curt Cignetti is a really good coach. They got a lot of good transfers in from James Madison, I believe it is. I've played with him a couple times on CFB 25. And honestly, yeah, like their receivers, if they're that good in real life, then like we got a challenge because they get separation. And but it's a testament to Tom Allen not having left the cupboards bare is what I'm trying to say. So it's not like he came into a no talent, no win situation. He came into a decent situation and made it even better through the transfer portal immediately. And I heard the other day somebody talking on a podcast. They were like, Matt Rule's culture is this, and Shiano's culture is that, and James Franklin culture is this. What is Cignetti's culture? And an Indiana insider was like, well, his culture is just winning. And I was like, most of the time, culture is supposed to be something that leads to winning. You know what I mean? Winning is a result. Culture is something that. So I was just confused. I was like, man, shoot. I mean, if you're gonna do it like a damn Mike Judge movie or something like that, we're just gonna be winners. We're just gonna win. Cool, man. I mean, they're doing it. So
yeah. I mean, isn't that supposed to be everybody's culture? Nobody starts a football season. We're gonna lose this year, man.
Exactly.
We're gonna lose.
Exactly. No, that comment struck me as like, okay. I was like, okay. I mean, that sounds kind of like Eastbound and Down type logic. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, well, we're just gonna win. Yeehaw! That is our culture. You know what I mean? Well, my thoughts then, thinking about that, are like, well, what happens if the rubber meets the road for a team like that? Mm-hmm. They're very arrogant. They don't shy away from that. One of the first comments he said was, Google me, I win. I mean, like they're not going to shy away from their confidence is what they would call it. Arrogance is what other people would call it. Right. But if we can get them on the ropes, if we can get their backs against the wall, I'm interested to see how they respond. I'll just say that. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm still sitting here, not quite sure who I'm going to pick. And we'll talk about that later, but we'll see. I'm interested. Indiana's a very interesting team. Like, even if I wasn't a Nebraska fan, I would definitely tune in and be very interested in this game.
Heck yeah. I mean, it's the first couple. So I'm not one of those people that have schedules memorized. And especially with this year we got 4 or 5 different schedules. Outside of the time we talked about it, I did forgot when we were playing Indiana. And I, when I saw the first couple of games that they were playing, I was like, wow, they look pretty good. I'd be interested to see what they do against some good teams. And then I think they beat, was it UCLA? Yeah, UCLA early. No.
Yeah, UCLA. Yeah. It's one of their wins. Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. They're probably for real. I would hate to have to play them. And then I looked at our schedule. I was like, oh, yeah, us. So, yeah. I mean, so here's the thing. So they've beaten FIU, WIU, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, and Northwestern. Those latter two in the Big Ten play, I will say, deceptive scores for how close those games were. They did a great job in both of them playing the fourth quarter.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what winning football does. I'm not
Yeah.
discrediting that.
Yeah,
I'm just
okay.
saying that Maryland and Northwestern did play them a little close.
Yeah.
But they were able to excel through the finish line where Maryland and Northwestern did not. So
Well, yeah. I mean, we just spent, the first 10 minutes of this podcast really like showering the Indiana program with heaps of praise, really. Like, but like also it needs to be said, like, to put all what you're saying right now in perspective, it is Indiana. So, like, when you see Indiana doing those types of things, it does make you turn your head a little bit. Like, if this was Ohio State with that same exact record and schedule, like, we're
you
like,
wouldn't
we
even
don't
bat an eye.
know. They haven't been tested yet because their standards are just so much more different, but
Yeah.
as Indiana right now, they're 6-0. They're already bowl eligible. And they have 3 Big Ten wins as Indiana, one of them going to LA
Yeah.
they're the traveling across the country
Yeah.
teams are like 1 and
Yeah.
9, and the
Mhm.
one winner is Indiana going to UCLA.
Yeah.
Well, now Penn State going to USC. That was the stat everybody was citing going into last weekend. But anyway, so yeah, there's some. It's just there's a lot of intrigue behind that team because of that reason. It's like, what are they? What is their ceiling?
Yeah.
And now we're going to find out because the back half of their schedule does test them. There's still some winnable games there for them as I see them as a team right now, though. But they're, they do
Dude,
get tested a lot.
If they keep up what they're doing,
Yeah.
us not included, say like they drop the game or they beat us, but it's close, whatever. The rest of their schedule now is looking really easy. Washington is not the runner-up, national runner-up
Beatable.
anymore. They're
Beatable.
beatable. Michigan State's beatable. Michigan is
that's their
beatable.
other big team. Yeah, beatable.
And then Ohio State, that's the only other game.
Okay, they play both Michigan and Ohio State. Okay.
This game, specifically for them, but also for us, is a huge game in terms of like national conversation. And you think that's weird, us being 5-1, but just for who we have left, let's look at that too. So we have them, then we have Ohio State, then we have UCLA, USC, Wisconsin, Iowa. Huge game for us too. If we could come out and look like we have at times this season, I might be a believer in the team, but this is a huge game just in terms of perception, not just for Nebraska fans, culture, where the teams are at, but also just nationally. So
yeah, I don't want to call it a must win because when you look back at schedules, like just like back in the day, like the 09, 10, 8, any of them really, like 12 when we went to the title game, the conference title game. You look back at those schedules and you really go game by game. It's like we dropped games that I forgot that we dropped, like to Iowa State and like teams like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then like we have these stretches where we rallied as a team and really like finished strong. And that to me has been the struggle of like the last 10 or so, maybe even more years, has been like the Riley teams didn't finish strong. His best team went 7-0 and then like 0-5 or whatever to finish. And then Frost teams, his very first year is the only year that like goes in opposition to this, right? They were 0-6 to start off, and then they finished 4-2 in their last 6. But besides that, it's been a story of like not finishing strong and getting in their own head. So this game to me is, like I said, I don't want to say a must win, but it's so important. And if they can win this game, then it starts them on the path towards finishing strong this year, which is going to be just so important moving forward. Because if you can show the recruiting class 7-5 or better, that's going to be an easy sell. Like that's going to be an easy sell no matter what. 7-5 or better. And if it's 7-5, I know it's going to be like 7-5 and it could have been better, like that's how it is. So yeah, but this game is really important. It gets us bowl eligible, gets that bowl eligibility thing off of our back. Yeah. We win this game, we're going to be going somewhere postseason. So yeah, it's big.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, right off the top, we can do 2 of our big things that we need to get that people like to talk about, the ranked, the teams wins versus top 25 talent, which we haven't done since Michigan in 2015, Michigan State in 2015. So that's a really long time. And then also the bowl, drought there. It's just those 2 of those things, and not just for our team, but for Matt Rule as well. Getting a top 25 win, because there's a whole narrative around him, whether it be, warranted or not. But yeah, no, it's huge that way. But how do you think, especially coming off of a bye, which I was super confident, by the way, again, coming off a bye. And I was just like, okay, we're going to come off a bye. They'll probably still be beat up by the last week. And then I saw that Indiana has a bye as well. So both teams
Yeah.
coming off a bye. So
Yeah, no, also
really,
like the coming off a bye thing for Nebraska fans is kind of like deceptive because we both know that like we've struggled coming off of a bye the last
Under
6 or
Frost.
7 years. So I know Frost did. I don't know about did Rule win coming off of a bye last year?
Yeah.
He did win
Illinois
coming
game
off-
was coming off a bye last week.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
Rule so far has been good coming off of a bye. We have 2 bye weeks this year, so we'll get 2 chances to see. But there's just a lot of things in that category where it's like coming off of a bye. The last 10 years, we're probably 3-7 or something like that. And then playing against ranked opponents in the last 20 years or whatever, we're 1-26 or something like that. And then it's like, so coming off of a bye against a road opponent. I don't know. We'll see, man. I'm interested to get into a little bit of the minute details of the thing personnel wise on Nebraska's end, at least because Tommy Hill might be back this week. And to me, one of the interesting conversations about our team is like Sierra Wright came in. It was like the situation where Sierra Wright comes in and like, it's like, is he better than, you know what I mean? He's good. He's good. Like Tommy's,
good.
you know what I mean? But he's good. So like, he's got to play. Sierra's got to play. And Rule described Tommy almost played last game, but he was running onto the field. And what he said was he broke the plantar fascia, which to me sort of sounds like a Camel Crush cigarette or something like that, where it's just like you have something in the filter where it's like crush, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like all good. And hopefully he's over it. And Tommy plays. Javen Wright had a medical issue and he's going to be in the game as well, playing supposedly significant snaps for the first time. So there's some interesting conversations, and then you got the Raiola angle. So what of those things, defensively and offensively, I don't know what jumps off the page to you. What's something you're kind of thinking about?
Even in our loss this year, our defense has still looked like its defense, whether they be out of place or whatever. They've never not looked like themselves. It's just them not executing. So I know Indiana has a great offense, but I'm less worried about that side of the ball than their defense because their defense is good too. Again, they probably haven't seen an offense like ours, but probably have, honestly, because we've had a couple down games offensively.
I don't think they've seen a
row.
receiving core like ours. I think our
That's
offensive
fair.
line is comparable to somebody like Northwestern, probably. We just are in that phase of the game. But wide receivers, definitely, they haven't seen like any like ours. And Raiola at full clip playing a really good game. They haven't seen a quarterback like him. Nobody close. So and he's had 1 bad game out of 6, right? 5 pretty good games out of 6. So that's the most interesting angle of the game to me, and that's what everybody's really going to be watching for. Is like Raiola had a bad game last game. Now he's coming off of a bye week, and you had the cute little story come out of the media of like, oh, Raiola was showing up to the field house early in the morning during the bye week, and he opened the door and woke Coach Rule up, who was sleeping at the field house because he knew how big of a game they had. It's just stuff like that. That's big. So it's going to be interesting to see how Raiola responds, is what I'm saying. It's going to be very interesting to see how he responds. And I think he will. Great players do usually respond, and have a bounce back sort of game. And in the NFL, like I said, you look at that, players go up and down. They have good games and bad games. And, that's the good thing about Raiola is, like we said, he has learned that it's not just him. We have a team and more specifically a defense to back him up. So,
yeah. No, I mean, there's some truth to that. The game really does hinge on Raiola.
Yeah.
Hinges on Matt Rule. Timeout.
I mean, he is the head coach. He could go out there and talk to the officials and say, we forfeit the game. So technically it does hinge on Matt Rule,
Sure. But no,
he's in charge of our program.
No, it hinges on how Raiola can bounce back. Whether he can take the next step and really take over a game, which really hasn't happened yet. I would love for that to happen this week, because you see it and it's so close. It's so close, and then the offense just goes on hiatus.
Mhm.
Like,
And that's Indiana's specialty too. That's like what they thrive at so far in
Yeah.
their season is like they're really good at finishing. So
Yep.
like it's sort of a situation where like if I were to boil it down to like an MMA thing, it's like in MMA you have all kind of different fighters, right? Sometimes grapplers, sometimes wrestlers, sometimes strikers. It's like if you're a wrestler, known as a wrestler, and you're gonna go fight a striker, and you're like, screw it, I want to knock him out. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that, where like we want to be the finisher in this game. We want to be the people that
Yeah.
step on the gas in the fourth quarter and prove to everybody like, no. Like we're
Yeah.
the better team. We're for real.
Listen, and Ty kind of had a line that said that kind of what you're saying.
Oh, really? He did?
What you're saying. He said, "We don't want to be the hunter. We want to be the hunted."
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that
Yeah.
that he's like, and that's how we're looking at it. Like
Mhm.
we're the better team and everything, which is again stuff players say, but
Mhm.
this team has talent to kind of back it up for the first time. And if they're coming in with that swagger, that confidence, and they come out like first half Colorado all around, it could be fun to watch, man. It could be fun.
Could be.
And I'm just holding on hope right now because we have played better competition just in the whole
Right. That's the
what I'm
wild
clinging
card.
to.
That's
Yeah.
the wild card, right? Is like,
Yeah.
is Indiana actually really, really good? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
really, really good. Like a different level of good than even like Illinois or somebody like that. You know, that's the wild card where it's like, I agree with you. There is a scenario where like Nebraska comes out firing on all cylinders and it's a fun game to watch for Nebraska fans. And then but I think there's also a scenario where they come out and it's like, oh, this Indiana team is for real. And then like there's a little bit of a, we got to gather ourselves and decide what we're going to do. Yeah, I think honestly, it'll be a really close game. Either way, I think it will.
Yeah.
And so this will be the two in a row for us, one score close game wins if we can pull this off. And it'll be a one score close game win against a quality opponent who's ranked. So I hope we can do it, but we'll see. Predictions. Yeah.
Let's
you want to go first?
into it, man. No. All you. I have to think. I'm wobbling. I'm doing the Illinois thing again.
Okay. Well, I was already kind of getting into it right there anyway. So, I mean, like I said, one school of thought is this Indiana team for real? And if they are, I think our defense is good enough where I don't see Indiana blowing us out. I don't think they're that good. Where like they could blow us out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're that good. Like their quarterback is good. Like Ohio State would take Curtis Rourke. Let's be honest about that.
Two scores.
Yeah, that's the most. That's the most
I could see.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, like even if they're like really good, like I'm talking about, I probably agree with that. On the other hand, though, there is a more realistic scenario in my mind that Nebraska is a really good team that's just needed to get its act together mentally for a while, and this is the game coming off a bye. An away game when you're as an offense, especially when you're at an away game, I feel like when that crowd's yelling when you're on the field, maybe gives you a little bit extra juice. So it works both ways, right? So yeah, that is another scenario where it's like all of a sudden, Nebraska's putting it together. Indiana did have a weak schedule before this, and I could see us winning by like 2 or 3 scores, maybe even in that scenario, maybe even more, so, but I do think it's going to be a close game. I do. I think Indiana is a really good team. I think that Cignetti, like I said, he's just a winner. He's just going to win. And I think that Nebraska is still figuring out how to win. So it's a very interesting matchup in that regard. Like it seems like their strengths are our weaknesses sort of across the board, which matchup wise, if you're thinking about that, doesn't make me, I don't know. I'm just kind of like going back and forth as I'm talking, but right now I'm going to go ahead and predict an Indiana win. Unfortunately, I'm going to go with 28-24 Indiana.
28-24
yeah,
Indiana.
That's my week of prediction. God, I hate that I did that.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of like my preseason, thing, we went over that last podcast. I had us having 2 losses going into Ohio State. I would love to be wrong on that prediction just because then you're bowl eligible before Ohio State. And then honestly, kind of how I said before, there's a national conversation that can start to be had about whoever wins this game. And I think there's something behind. I've watched a couple interviews with the coach just in the past couple of days, because this is the most publicized game for sure. I mean, it's big noon, so prime time for Fox, and there's just something behind the coach. I don't know what it is. He almost looks a little like nervous. I don't know. There's something there, but I'm gonna pick him to win. Just not as dominant. I think he sees something in the Nebraska team that he's a little nervous for. And with all the media and everything like that, I think there's just something, an undercurrent that I'm picking up. So with that being said, though, I'm going to pick 35-21 Indiana.
35-21 Indiana. Wow.
Yeah.
So dominant win for Indiana.
2 scores.
2 scores. Yeah. So that's what you predict, that they're really good and we don't really respond. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. There's something about the coach right now. And I've heard the argument said this week that's like all the pressure's on Indiana, all the pressure's on Indiana. I'm like, look, man, no, it's not. Okay. Here's my argument. Okay. My argument is that Indiana is Indiana and they're already 6-0. You know what I mean? Like, this is icing on the cake for their fans, especially at this point. Like, if I was an honest Indiana fan, I'd be so ecstatic about where my team is right now. And like, if they can like go 3-3 in their next 6, I'd still be super ecstatic about the year, because that's 9-3 from Indiana coming off of a 3-9 year. So to me, I don't know if the team really thinks about it that way. They want to win every game, you know, and it's a big noon spot. So I see people's line of thinking there. But I also think like, bro, they know they've already had success. They know it's okay. Like, if it happens, it's not the end of the world for them. Whereas for us, there is a lot of pressure on us. This is year 2 of rule. You know what I mean? We're 5-1, not 6-0, not 6-0 yet. We're not bowl eligible yet. So like, if they lose this game and they lose Ohio State, all of a sudden we're 5-3 at the same point of the year that we were 5-3 last year. So the conversation goes from, oh yeah, we've turned it around, we're 5-1, to, oh crap, like it's the same even with a 5-star quarterback and we're 5-3. So like, to me, I think about it, I'm like, no. The pressure's on for Nebraska. Do not be mistaken. A lot of pressure on Nebraska, in my opinion.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
No, for sure. That's I mean, there's nothing really more to say.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous about this game. Less nervous than I was for Colorado, just because if we lose to Indiana, it's not like I'm not gonna say it's not a big deal, because it is every time we lose, but it's less of a big deal as losing to Colorado.
It ruins my whole year.
And all that. It would ruin, whole year, a year ruiner. But yeah, so
I'm surprised not more Nebraska people are framing it the way I just did, though. Like, most of them really are framing it like all the pressure's on Indiana. Nebraska's gonna dominate. I'm like, guys, okay, like I'm Nebraska fan just like y'all, but like, have we not been like cheated on enough to like, you know what I mean? Like,
they're not gonna hurt me this time.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I'm
different.
just trying to be realistic about this whole thing. That's why my prediction was the way it was. So
no.
Anyway,
we'll see. Just remember that